In life, how many times have we quickly labeled something as bad the moment it happened? And how often has that very same misfortune later revealed itself as a turning point leading to something better? The truth is, in the present moment, we rarely possess enough clarity to fully understand the meaning of what is happening to us. Life is not always as straightforward as we would like it to be. Losses, challenges, and difficulties are often part of a larger process, quietly preparing us for greater opportunities ahead. Yet most of us lack patience. We want immediate answers, a clear label of good or bad, without giving time the chance to unfold the bigger picture. The reality is that the true value of any event can only be understood in hindsight. What seems like an ending may actually be the beginning of a new journey. Instead of rushing to judgment, we should learn to slow down, observe, and trust the natural flow of life. Remember, not everything that happens carries a negative meaning. Sometimes, the very things we fear the most are the hidden doors leading us to something far greater. The story revolves around a simple farmer living in a small village, where people often measured life by what they owned. He was neither wealthy nor powerful, yet he possessed something many others lacked: inner calmness. While those around him quickly celebrated good fortune and fell into despair during difficult times, this farmer remained steady and composed in the face of every situation. He understood that life is not limited to what appears in the present moment, but is instead a long, unfolding process whose true outcomes are revealed only over time. Whether facing success or hardship, he continued to work diligently, maintain his faith, and accept everything with quiet acceptance. To him, nothing could be labeled entirely good or bad at the moment it happened. The farmer often reminded himself and his son, only time can reveal the truth of everything. This belief allowed him to avoid being controlled by temporary emotions. When the harvest failed, he did not complain. When things went well, he did not become arrogant. Instead, he chose to live in balance, refusing to let circumstances dictate his state of mind. What truly set him apart was not his situation, but his perspective on life. While others were carried away by constant changes, he stood firm like a tree in the wind, silently observing and patiently waiting. He believed that every event carried its own meaning, whether or not it was immediately visible. Through patience and trust in the natural flow of life, the farmer preserved a deep sense of inner peace, something many people search for, but only a few ever truly attain. One day, a wealthy merchant passed through the village and was captivated by the farmer's beautiful horse. Recognizing its value, he immediately offered a large sum of money, enough to transform the farmer's entire life. The villagers were amazed and saw this as a rare opportunity that anyone would eagerly accept. However, to everyone's surprise, the farmer calmly refused the offer. To him, the horse was not merely a possession to be exchanged for money. It was a part of his family, something he had raised and cared for over many years. Even when the merchant increased his offer multiple times, the farmer remained firm in his decision. His choice led the villagers to believe he was unwise, even foolish, for turning down such a life-changing opportunity. A few days later, something unexpected happened. The horse disappeared without a trace. The stable was empty, the rope undone, and no one knew where it had gone. The farmer and his son searched everywhere, but found nothing. Once again, the villagers began to talk, this time claiming that the farmer was facing the consequences of his earlier decision. In their eyes, had he sold the horse, he would not have suffered such a loss. The farmer's son felt deeply saddened and disappointed by what had happened. Yet the farmer maintained his usual calmness. He gently told his son not to rush into labeling the situation as bad. He believed that every event carries its own purpose, and only time can reveal its true meaning. Through this incident, an important lesson emerges. What we perceive as a loss today may not truly be negative. Sometimes, what appears to be misfortune is simply the beginning of something better that we cannot yet see. About a week after the horse disappeared, something remarkable happened. Early one morning, while a thin layer of mist still covered the fields, the farmer's son suddenly heard the sound of galloping hooves in the distance. He rushed outside and was astonished to see their horse had returned. But what surprised him even more was that it was followed by 5 wild horses, strong, untamed, and full of energy. The news quickly spread throughout the village. Those who had once criticized the farmer now changed their attitude, calling him the luckiest man around. They whispered that with 6 horses, his family would soon become wealthier than ever before. Yet, unlike the excitement of others, the farmer remained calm and composed. He did not celebrate or take pride in what had just happened. Instead, he gently reminded his son not to judge the situation too quickly. Even though it seemed like a blessing, no one could truly know what consequences might follow. To him, every event was simply part of life's flow, and only time could reveal its true meaning. Unable to contain his excitement, the son decided the next day to ride one of the wild horses in an attempt to tame it. However, the horse was too wild and powerful. It bucked violently, throwing him to the ground. The accident happened suddenly, leaving the boy with a seriously broken leg. Once again, the villagers began to talk. This time, they claimed that the wild horses had brought nothing but trouble. But the farmer did not change his perspective. He remained as calm as ever, trusting that even this event carried its own purpose, one that time would eventually reveal. Just 2 weeks after the son's accident, a major event struck the village. The sound of drums and trumpets echoed loudly as the king's soldiers arrived, carrying an order to recruit all able-bodied young men for a war at the northern border. There were no exceptions and no excuses. One by one, the young men of the village were called and taken away, leaving their families behind in fear and sorrow. The atmosphere in the village quickly turned heavy. Those who had once lived peacefully, working their fields, were now forced to face the harsh reality of war, something they had never prepared for. The cries of mothers and the silent despair of fathers filled the air, making the entire village feel as though it had lost its heart. When the soldiers arrived at the farmer's house, they saw his son lying on a bed with his leg tightly bound in splints. After a brief look, they decided to pass him over, believing he was unfit for battle. Because of his injury, the boy was spared from the dangers of war. As time passed, the war eventually ended, but its consequences were devastating. Of all the young men taken from the village, only a few returned. The rest were lost forever on the battlefield. The same families who had once mocked the farmer were now grieving the loss of their loved ones. Sitting under the familiar tree, the son slowly recovered and began to understand the deeper meaning of everything that had happened. What once brought him pain and despair had ultimately saved his life. The farmer gently reminded him of the same lesson. Never rush to celebrate, and never be too quick to despair. Every event carries its own purpose, and only time can reveal the full picture. After everything that had happened, the son finally came to fully understand the lesson his father had patiently tried to teach him all along. What he once believed to be endings had actually been the beginnings of something better. Every event, whether joyful or painful, was part of a larger picture, and its true meaning could only be revealed over time. The farmer taught his son a simple yet profound truth. First, never rush to judge anything the moment it happens. Life does not always reveal its full meaning right away. Sometimes what appears to be negative is quietly guiding us toward greater opportunities ahead. Second, trust the process of life. Even when the road ahead seems uncertain or difficult, it does not mean it leads to a bad outcome. Every step has its purpose and contributes to shaping a future that we cannot yet fully see. Third, maintaining emotional balance is the key to inner peace. When good things happen, do not become overly proud. When facing difficulties, do not lose hope. Life is constantly changing, and a steady mind will help us navigate through its ups and downs. Looking back on everything that had occurred, the son realized that all events were connected in ways he had never understood before. From the horse running away and returning, to the accident and the war, each moment played a role in leading to the final outcome. The greatest lesson of all is this: be patient, stay grateful, and keep your faith strong. Only when the full story is told can we truly understand the purpose behind each chapter of our lives. When reflecting on this story, it becomes clear that its lessons are not limited to the farmer and his son. They mirror the realities of our own lives. Everyone has experienced moments when everything seemed to fall apart. Losing a job, failing an exam, going through a breakup, or facing unexpected financial struggles. In those moments, despair can make us believe that it is the end. However, as time passes, many come to realize that those very hardships often open new doors. A better job, a healthier relationship, or a stronger, more mature version of ourselves may emerge from those difficult experiences. What once caused pain can become the very foundation for growth and resilience. Life is not a short story with a clear beginning and end. It is more like a long book made up of many chapters, each playing its own role. If we judge the entire story based on a single page, we will never understand its full meaning. That is why rushing to label an event as good or bad the moment it happens often leads to misunderstanding. When facing uncertainty and change, what matters most is maintaining calmness and trust. Learn to pause, breathe, and remind yourself that clarity will come with time. Do not let temporary emotions dictate how you interpret your situation. The final message is simple yet powerful. Do not celebrate too soon, and do not fall into despair too quickly. Be patient, stay grateful, and keep moving forward. Because only when you look back on the entire journey will you truly understand why everything happened the way it did.